I want to thank you all for being here today because we're about to unpack a truth that isn't just about relationships, but about understanding human nature. The simple act of stopping communication, texting, calling, reaching out changes the dynamic between two people. Now, here's the thing: when you stop, a man's response will reveal a lot about his heart and mindset. You see, when you stop showing constant attention, you're not just disappearing into the shadows. No, you're sending a signal. You're teaching a lesson, one of value, strength, and presence. And here's the reaction you'll see in return: a shift. A man doesn't always appreciate how much he values someone until the energy shifts. Think about it: when you're always there, always responding, always making yourself available, it creates a pattern. He knows you'll always text back. He knows you'll always be on the other end of the line. Predictability breeds complacency, and complacency leads to taking things for granted. But when you stop, when you pause and give yourself some space, that is when the mind begins to stir. That is when he begins to wonder. Does she care? Is she still interested? Why haven't I heard from her? Understanding the power of absence in any relationship is one of the most underestimated tools for creating emotional depth and connection. When you stop texting and calling, you aren't just withdrawing communication, you're creating a space that allows the other person to process their feelings, reflect on their actions, and recognize their own attachment. Absence has the power to shift the dynamic between two people because it introduces unpredictability into a relationship. Humans are wired to notice what they don't have. When you're always present, always texting, always calling, there's a sense of familiarity and comfort that can lead to taking someone for granted. Constant communication can make a relationship feel predictable, and predictability can breed complacency. But when you step back and remove yourself from that constant presence, it forces the other person to confront their emotions. They start to ask themselves questions: where is she? Why haven't I heard from her? Does she care? This absence gives the space necessary for curiosity to build. When you stop reaching out, it allows a man to feel the void of your attention. It creates an opportunity for him to wonder if you're truly invested or if you've grown distant. That uncertainty is not a bad thing. It's actually an invitation for reflection, and reflection can lead to stronger connections if approached with care. The space allows him to identify his own feelings as well as recognize your value without the constant reassurance of your attention. By stepping back, you're showing strength and independence. You're signaling that you don't rely solely on constant communication for validation or emotional stability. This confidence builds your worth in his eyes because you demonstrate that you have your own life, your own boundaries, and your own priorities. When you stop texting and calling, you're not just creating emotional space, you're creating value, allowing him to feel the significance of your presence in his life by realizing how much he misses it. Absence gives you an advantage by making you intriguing. It keeps a man on his toes, encouraging him to invest emotionally and to chase connection because you're no longer a guarantee. You've placed a little mystery into the dynamic, and mystery has always been an attractive quality in relationships. You're showing him that you're comfortable without needing constant validation, and this will naturally compel him to put in the effort to maintain connection. The power of absence is not about playing games or creating emotional manipulation. It's about allowing space for growth, clarity, and appreciation. It's about showing that you value yourself enough to know your worth and to trust that a meaningful connection will thrive when both people are allowed to approach it with intentionality and choice. The emotional response a man has when you stop texting and calling is deeply rooted in human nature and the psychology of relationships. It's important to understand that men, like all individuals, are emotional beings, even if they don't always show it. When you change your patterns of communication, particularly by pulling back, it creates an emotional shift that can lead to a variety of reactions. This response is his way of processing the change in the dynamic between the two of you. When you're constantly texting and reaching out, you're providing reassurance, comfort, and stability. This builds a pattern where he comes to expect your presence and attention, but when you stop reaching out, it disrupts this pattern. This disruption introduces uncertainty into his emotional state. He'll begin to question his own feelings and assumptions. Questions such as, does she still care? Is she losing interest? Am I losing her? May come to his mind. These questions create an emotional response, which can manifest in different ways depending on the individual. Some men may respond by attempting to regain control of the situation. This could mean reaching out to you, trying harder to connect, or even showing more interest to compensate for the change. Others might take a step back themselves to assess their feelings, wondering whether they've been taking your presence for granted. These varied responses come from one common emotional trigger, the fear of losing connection. When you stop being readily available, you awaken this fear, and it prompts a reaction. It's not just about chasing or the fear of rejection, it's about recognizing the emotional weight that comes with change. This emotional response reveals a lot about his state of mind and how much he values the relationship. If a man reacts by making an effort to reconnect, it suggests that he values you and wants to maintain the bond. If he doesn't respond, it may indicate that he needs time to process his own feelings or that he hasn't yet fully acknowledged the emotional shift you've introduced. Either way, this response allows you to learn about his feelings, intentions, and level of commitment. What makes this reaction so powerful is that it can lead to growth for both individuals. His emotional response can lead him to self-reflection, where he considers how much he values you and how much you value and how much effort he's willing to put into the relationship. Your decision to pull back and give him space creates an opportunity for him to step into his emotions and invest in building a deeper connection with you on his own terms. The emotional response isn't just a reaction to your absence, it's a catalyst for self-awareness, growth, and clarity. It provides both of you the opportunity to pause, reflect, and discover what truly matters in the connection you share. By creating this emotional shift, you're giving him the chance to choose to invest in the relationship and prioritize you not out of obligation but out of genuine desire. Breaking the pattern of constant communication is one of the most powerful things you can do in a relationship. Patterns, while comforting in their predictability, can also lead to a lack of growth, excitement, or emotional depth. When two people are always in touch, always responding, and always reaching out, it can become easy for a relationship to feel routine. Predictability can lead to complacency, where both individuals become too comfortable and stop putting in the effort to maintain the spark or emotional connection that brought them together in the first place. When you stop texting and calling, you disrupt this routine. Disruption can feel uncomfortable at first, but it introduces a new level of emotional engagement. It creates a space that wasn't there before, a moment where two people can reestablish their emotional connection without falling into the same patterns of communication. Breaking the pattern gives both individuals the chance to step back, reflect, and rediscover the value in the relationship. It allows a man to feel the absence of your presence and reconnect with his emotions. This shift can lead him to invest in the relationship more deeply because he begins to recognize that relationships require effort, intention, and choice. A predictable communication pattern can lead to a sense of security, but it can also lead to stagnation. When you always text back quickly or always ensure you're available, he might come to expect this as the norm. The beauty of breaking that pattern is that it introduces space into the relationship space that can create curiosity, excitement, and reflection. It allows a man to experience the contrast of having you in his life and the emotional challenge of navigating distance, however small. This contrast makes him realize that relationships are about effort and attention, not just convenience. The act of pulling back isn't about playing games or manipulation, it's about creating a healthier dynamic by allowing space to foster personal growth and emotional honesty. By disrupting patterns of constant contact, you give both yourself and the other person the opportunity to rediscover what you truly mean to one another. You're saying, I value this connection, but I also value myself. That shift creates balance, as it demonstrates that you're not desperate for attention or validation, but rather confident and secure enough to let emotions develop on their own terms. When you stop texting and calling, you allow him to feel the absence of your presence. This feeling forces him to confront his emotions and to actively participate in the connection instead of relying on the comfort of routine communication. This can lead to meaningful moments where he has to step up, invest, and show that he values you enough to make the effort to reach out and connect. In the end, breaking the pattern isn't about leaving him in the dark. It's about creating a new, intentional way of building connection, one that's based on mutual choice, effort, and self-awareness. When you stop texting and calling, one of the most powerful things that happen is that he'll notice your absence. The act of pulling back creates an emotional shift, and that shift draws attention because humans are wired to notice changes in their environment, especially when it involves connection. When you're always the one initiating communication, your presence becomes a constant. It can become something that he takes for granted without even realizing it. But when you remove that constant, when you give him the space to feel the absence of your attention, you create an opportunity for him to reflect on the relationship and his feelings. The absence forces him to confront his own emotional state. It might start as simple curiosity: where is she? Why haven't I heard from her? But these simple questions can quickly evolve into deeper self-assessment. The lack of immediate communication allows his mind to wander, and this wandering can lead him to recognize just how much you mean to him. He may start to wonder whether he was investing enough effort into the connection, whether he was taking your presence for granted, or whether he truly values having you in his life. These realizations are often a byproduct of missing someone's presence. This absence doesn't mean you're being cruel or distant on purpose. Instead, it's an invitation for him to step into his emotions and recognize his feelings without constant reassurance. It's easy to lose perspective when someone is always texting or calling because you never have the space to miss them. But by creating a bit of distance, you're giving him that opportunity to miss you, to think about you, and to discover how much he values the connection you share. This is one of the most natural and powerful emotional responses that come from absence. It encourages growth, self-awareness, and appreciation. He'll notice your absence because it creates contrast. This emotional contrast makes the connection more meaningful because he has to choose to step back into that space by taking action, reaching out, putting in the effort, and showing his commitment. When you stop texting and calling, you're showing him that you're not only emotionally strong, but also willing to give him the opportunity to recognize the depth of your connection. This teaches a valuable lesson: relationships thrive when both people are willing to put in the effort and choose to connect, not because they feel pressured or expect constant reassurance. The absence is, in a way, a gift. It creates a moment for him to reflect on his own feelings and ask himself the tough questions. Does he care? Does he care? Does he value the connection enough to put in the effort? Will he take the initiative to reconnect? These questions allow him to grow, take ownership, and show you that he truly values you, not just because you're always there, but because he has to work to maintain the connection. When you create this emotional space, you're allowing him to explore his feelings and make choices about how much effort he wants to put into the relationship. That's far more powerful than constantly proving your presence and availability. Sometimes absence is the catalyst that leads to deeper connection and understanding. It gives him the chance to feel, reflect, and step into his emotions, creating a stronger, more intentional bond. When you stop texting and calling, you create space that builds value and demonstrates emotional independence. This idea is simple but powerful. By pulling back and allowing a man to experience your absence, you're showing him that you have a life beyond the relationship and that you are confident in your own worth. Emotional value isn't built by constantly proving yourself or seeking reassurance. It's built by creating boundaries, maintaining self-respect, and letting someone earn the privilege of your attention and connection. Creating emotional space allows you to shift the dynamic of the relationship. When you're always available and always reaching out, you may unknowingly send the message that you have nothing else going on in your life. This can lead a man to take you for granted or assume that you'll always be there no matter what. But when you choose to pull back, you're demonstrating that you're busy, focused, and comfortable in your own life. This makes you more intriguing, and it communicates that you value yourself and your personal journey. It shows that you don't rely on constant attention or validation to feel secure. When you give him space, you're teaching him the lesson that relationships require effort and intention. It's a powerful way to remind a man that he must put in the work to maintain connection. You're not being manipulative or cruel. By creating this space, you're simply allowing the relationship to grow naturally. Space gives him the opportunity to miss you, to feel curiosity about you, and to come to his own realization about how much you mean to him. By creating this emotional gap, you're giving him the chance to step up, invest, and prove his feelings without being pressured or forced. The act of pulling back has another important effect. It shows confidence. Confidence is one of the most attractive traits a person can have because it demonstrates that you are secure in your own worth and that you don't depend on someone else to feel complete. When you stop texting and calling, you're showing him that you respect yourself enough to prioritize your own needs and desires rather than just chasing his attention. This kind of self-assurance is magnetic. It signals to him that you're not desperate for connection or validation, but rather you have a life that you're building and pursuing. By building emotional value through space and independence, you're creating a foundation for a stronger, more meaningful connection. Men respond positively to challenge, mystery, and the opportunity to invest emotionally. When you give him the chance to pursue you, to put in the effort, and to chase after your attention, you're allowing him to see your worth in a deeper, more authentic way. Emotional value isn't about constant communication. It's about showing that you're whole on your own and that you have your own journey to focus on. This creates respect, intrigue, and a natural desire for connection. By prioritizing yourself and allowing space to teach him how much you're worth, you're setting the stage for a relationship built on mutual effort, emotional growth, and genuine connection. You are worth the effort. And when you respect yourself enough to show that, he will, in turn, respect you more. When you stop texting and calling, you're creating a challenge, a natural shift that can lead to a man pursuing you. People are wired to value what they have to work for. And the act of pulling back introduces an emotional challenge that can awaken a man's desire to invest more into the connection. Relationships thrive when there is balance, mutual effort, and a sense of pursuit. And when you step back from constant communication, you allow him to experience the active effort as part of building a meaningful bond. The idea here isn't about playing games, but creating space that allows emotions and desire to grow naturally. When you're always the one texting or calling, it can make things feel easy, predictable, and expected. This can lead to a man becoming comfortable with the dynamic and assuming you'll always be available. But when you stop making yourself so readily accessible, you shift that dynamic. You give him the chance to feel the gap, to recognize that maintaining connection takes intentionality and choice. This uncertainty creates a subtle, yet powerful challenge. Men are motivated by pursuit. The act of chasing after connection, of putting in effort and taking steps to show interest is part of what keeps a relationship exciting and meaningful. When you pull back and give him the space to navigate his emotions, it sparks that pursuit. He'll begin to wonder about your feelings, question whether he's done enough to show you he cares, and feel motivated to reach out. This isn't about manipulation, it's simply human nature. People are more likely to value what they have to earn rather than something that's handed to them without effort. This emotional challenge is also an opportunity for growth on both sides. When you stop texting and calling, you allow him to learn to take responsibility for the connection. He must decide whether he will act, invest, and show up for the relationship. This kind of effort can strengthen emotional bonds because it comes from a place of genuine desire rather than routine or expectation. It creates a foundation built on choice rather than pressure. It allows a man to invest his own time, energy, and emotional effort into creating a deeper connection with you. The act of pulling back shows confidence. Confidence is incredibly attractive because it signals that you're not desperate or clingy, but rather self-assured and secure enough to value your own life and boundaries. When a man sees that you're comfortable stepping back without fear of losing connection, it builds respect and admiration. It tells him that you're a person of value who prioritizes self-worth while still being open to building something meaningful. When you stop texting and calling, you're giving him the gift of choice, the choice to invest, to chase, and to prove that he values you. This is far more powerful than simply being available at all times. The act of pursuit creates excitement, passion, and connection. It allows both individuals to experience the thrill of desire and effort, turning the relationship into something meaningful and intentional. When you stop texting and calling, a natural moment of reflection takes place, both for you and for him. This time of silence allows a man to process his feelings, examine the relationship, and evaluate his own role in the dynamic between you. It's in these moments of pause that clarity begins to emerge, as emotions aren't being drowned out by constant communication. Instead, they're given space to settle and reveal themselves. Reflection is an important part of any emotional journey, and your decision to create distance gives him the chance to think deeply about his feelings and intentions. The absence of constant communication removes distraction, forcing him to face his emotions head-on. Often, when people are caught up in the daily back and forth of texting or calling, it can be easy to avoid the deeper feelings that lie beneath. These patterns of constant contact can act as a distraction, creating a false sense of emotional stability or assurance. However, when you step back, you remove that distraction and give him the opportunity to truly process his heart. He may start to ask himself questions like, how much do I care about her? Or am I doing enough to show her that I value this connection? This space you create isn't just about giving him the chance to feel the absence, it's about allowing him to confront his own feelings without being prompted or pressured. It encourages emotional honesty and self-awareness. This time allows him to consider whether he's been taking you for granted, whether he's invested enough in the connection, or if he truly values having you in his life. The pause can act as a mirror, reflecting his feelings and making him take ownership of his emotions and the connection you share. The beautiful thing about this moment of reflection is that it's natural and productive. When emotions have time and space to settle, they become clearer and less clouded by assumptions, expectations, or misunderstandings. Your choice to stop texting and calling doesn't just pull you back from the relationship, it creates a safe space for both of you to grow. Reflection can lead to realizations that are powerful. It can lead to emotional growth, appreciation, and reconnection. A man's willingness to sit with his feelings and confront the truth of his heart is a sign of maturity and emotional depth. You're not responsible for managing his emotions or his journey, but by creating this distance, you're allowing him the opportunity to explore these thoughts and feelings on his own terms. This builds strength within the relationship because when he returns to communication, it will be with more intentionality and self-awareness. Reflection allows him to move toward you with greater understanding and appreciation rather than acting out of habit or assumption. This pause allows growth for both parties. It provides the opportunity for him to see you in a new light, recognize your value, and commit to showing you that he cares, this time with purpose and intention. Your willingness to create emotional space empowers both of you to step into a deeper, more meaningful connection, one that is intentional, honest, and reflective of genuine feelings rather than expectation or routine. When you stop texting and calling, you're allowing a natural and healthy shift in the dynamic of the relationship, one that leads to personal growth for both of you. Relationships aren't just about consistent communication, they're about balance, respect, and effort. By pulling back and giving a man the space to reflect and act on his own, you're teaching him an important lesson. Meaningful relationships require intentional effort. This growth doesn't just affect him, it impacts you too, as you gain clarity, strength, and confidence in knowing that you value yourself enough to create boundaries and prioritize your emotional well-being. Personal growth comes when you step back and learn how to rely on your own strength, rather than being in constant contact to ensure emotional connection. When you're always texting and calling, it can sometimes lead to emotional dependency, where both people begin to rely on constant reassurance rather than creating a strong foundation built on mutual trust and choice. However, by stepping back, you allow yourself to tap into self-discovery. You begin to focus on your own needs, desires, goals, and personal journey. This growth gives you perspective. It helps you see the relationship more clearly and gives you the strength to know that your happiness isn't tied solely to a man's response or attention. At the same time, giving him space allows him to experience growth as well. When you stop texting and calling, he's given the opportunity to process his emotions, confront his feelings, and decide whether he truly values the connection. This space allows him to step into his own emotional awareness, learn how much effort it takes to build connection, and understand what it means to earn trust and attention. When he responds with intention after taking the time to think things through, it shows emotional maturity and self-awareness on his part. Similarly, you're showing him that you respect yourself enough to trust him to make that effort without chasing or demanding constant reassurance. Personal growth through this process teaches you confidence. Confidence comes from knowing your worth, setting boundaries, and understanding that you are complete on your own. You're not desperate or clingy, you're secure, intentional, and strong enough to give the relationship the space it needs to grow naturally. This shift allows you to maintain control of your emotional health while also giving him the opportunity to show you his true feelings and intentions. It's a journey of mutual learning. He learns to recognize your value and how much you mean to him, while you learn that your happiness and self-worth don't depend on being available or actively pursuing connection at all times. This growth is ultimately the foundation for a stronger, more meaningful relationship, one built on respect, choice, and emotional effort rather than routine or expectation. When both individuals are willing to step back, reflect, and grow, they return to the connection with a new perspective, more appreciation, and a deeper understanding of each other. By pulling back from constant communication, you're allowing the opportunity for authentic feelings, clarity, and mutual effort to thrive, leading to a more balanced, mature, and fulfilling connection. As we wrap this up, remember that relationships are built on balance, respect, and choice. When you stop texting and calling, you're not being distant or manipulative. You're creating space for reflection, growth, and intentionality. You're allowing him the chance to confront his emotions, to feel the absence, and to discover just how much you mean to him on his own terms. At the same time, you're giving yourself the gift of self-respect, confidence, and clarity, a reminder that your happiness begins with valuing yourself first. The beauty of emotional space is that it allows both people to step into a deeper, more authentic connection. It challenges him to pursue you with intention and teaches you that you are worthy of effort and attention, not because you chase it, but because you command it through confidence and strength. True connection comes from mutual choice and understanding, not pressure or routine. So trust the process. Trust that by pulling back, you're creating the opportunity for something stronger, more honest, and more meaningful to emerge. Stand in your power. Trust in your journey. And always remember, the right connection will find its way when it's built on mutual respect, effort, and choice. Thank you.